G'day, it's Chris. Welcome to Flat Tank Journey. It's late in the afternoon and I'm tidying up some footage that I shot a few weeks ago. Sadly, the end of it was corrupt and I've just reshot the end for you. This episode centres around the oil pump fitting or the oil feed fitting. Here's the one I made. Now, when I made it, I didn't really make it in any detail for you. A friend suggested that the channel would grow perhaps if I showed more detail. So I've shown a lot of detail. This is a longer video. So if you don't like detail and machining and measuring, scoot to the end and see the end result. I hope you enjoy it. I'm trying to roughly true up a piece of brass in the lathe. I had this in a scrap box, came from someone else. Well, I forget where it came from, doesn't matter. And it was a little bit moth-eaten on the ends. And it's a bit out of round at one end. It's might even be a bronze. I was going to attempt to make the new oil feed out of this. I'm going to play a bit more with it and get it round and get the straight and get it to length and see what I think about it. I'll bring you back. The outside diameter I'm looking for is 13mm. That will let me match up to this face plate or this plate really carefully and really neatly. Because I'm trying to build something that I suppose, for want of a better description, is slimline. And the outside of this is 1272, 1280, so 13mm, what I'm aiming for. Now I measure again because I'm obsessive compulsive and see that my 0.5 millimetre that I was trying to take off leaves me at 1424. So it's cut just over 0.5 mil. I'm going to take another 0.5 millimetre. Says I'm at 1330, so I've obviously not quite taken the 0.5 mil. I'm going to take 1/4 mil and then sand it up and see what it looks like. Let's see how close we are. In theory, I should be 0.1 millimetre off. Now, first measure. I'm 1302. So I'm 0.02 millimetre, 1/100 millimetre away from being 13mm. I'm going to call that good because I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to give that a sand up with some emery taper, but it doesn't look too bad. I slowed the feed down and it'll all be okay. some 180 and some 320, and that looks super. Now I've still got daggy bits on the end, so I'm going to machine the end back until I've got a clean surface and I can get a clear run at this whole thing. I'm going to cut a little chamfer on the edge of that, or a chamfer, depends on what school you went to. There we go, because I have cut my fingers on the edge of, in particular, brass before. Rightio. I need to spin it round and get the other side down to 13 mil, or as close as I can to that. I'm going to sand the whole lot up and we should be good. So I'm at 1307, which is, you know, more or less right on. I am just going to roll it out of the chuck a little bit, and I'm just going to take a skim pass or a spring cut. I don't think you'll see it in the video, but I can see where it's just touched the cut on the other side, and it's left the tiniest ridge. I'm going to sand that out with emery tape or emery paper, using 100 grit first and then 320. It'll be good. There we go. That's enough for me to start laying it out with. I've taken a piece out of the scrap bin and I've ended up with a piece that I can now start to lay this onto. And it's not much more than that. I'm going to go back to the bench, make measurements, make a diagram and scratch this out. Rightio. There's the first piece I made, and it's a copy of the original piece. Sorry, it sits like that. I think that's where it sits. So what I need to do is make this piece, and we'll end up with a much shorter piece. I need to add that distance to the end of this and move the hole. That's my theory anyway. I'm going to measure it out. There we have it. It's that simple. Got to drill a hole up the middle, make all those machining marks, cut a thread, drill a hole, create a recess. What could go wrong? I'm back at the lathe and I've got this shortened up in the chuck and tightened up. I need to drill a little guide hole in the end so that I can bore the long hole straight up the end. So I've got a stubby sander drill in there and I'm just going to drill a hole. Now I've let that go in and create a little chamfer on the outside. Now I'm going to begin the tedious process of drilling that out to 4.5 millimeters. I'll show you the early stages and then we can forget about it. Now I'm by no means an expert at this, so you know, if there's a better way, I'm good with that. I've shortened the drill bit up as much as I can in the chuck, and I've got this without a lot of overhang, with the best grip on it I can get. I'm going to slowly peck away at this and get the depth of that, and then I'm going to lengthen the drill bit. I think you get the picture of how laborious that job's going to be. So I'm just going to tick away at it and I'm not going to bore you stupid with it. I'm back. I've been messing around with the hole. Haven't been gone all that long, if I'm being honest. Now I'm shooting for 85 millimeters and I'm 85.6. So I've just overshot the depth of the hole, but I don't think it's the end of the world and I don't think I'm going to lose a lot of sleep over that. Happy days. I need to start machining the outside of it now, and so I'm going to get a good chunk out of the chuck, and I'm going to support that this time with a live centre. I assume people know what I mean. Live centre just means the point of it spins. Mine's a bit old and a bit moth-eaten, but in principle, all it really does is support the outside so you're not getting wave around. I'm going to make some measurements, bring it back and start machining this into shape. Rightio. I marked that with the texter, and maybe you can see the line there. And now I've just used the point of the cutting tool to scribe a line that I can machine up to. I need to take this 13mm down to 995, or about 3/8, I suppose, just on. Last time. Yeah, it still measures 999. I'm right there. It's brass, it's soft, it'll cut a 3/8 cycle thread onto it, and we shouldn't have any trouble. The next measurement to take is the measurement from the end to the top of the threads, and to mark that out, and then to machine from the bottom of the threads to the fitting. I'm just going to mark it with a Sharpie. I am going to check it because I'm a bit more accurate than that, but I'm not going to lose a hell of a lot of sleep over it. Yeah, that's going to be grand. The outside diameter of the end of it is 805, so I've got about 2mm to take off. Actually pulled up just short. I'm at 8.06. Yeah, 8.06. I'm happy with that. It's not going to be a big deal. I'm going to cut a little chamfer in here so it doesn't leave a sharp edge. Then I need to work out where to cut the recess, and then I'd have to drill the hole. Then I'll have a shoulder. The shoulder's sitting there. Yep, that's right. The shoulder's going to sit there, and I'll be able to part that off. Let's cut a little chamfer. I got a bit of a mess. Brass makes such a mess. It's just dreadful stuff on the lathe. Thank God for the multi-fix tool head, because you can move it round 9 degrees at a time. have another go, see if I can get in a little bit further. Mightn't make it. Yep. I want that thread to have something good to start against. I'm going to have a bit of a clean up now. The next job is to cut that little channel. So I'm going to try using a parting tool. I just need to measure this up. So I'm going to turn you off for a second while I measure and stick my head in front of the whole workpiece. No, I forgot to bring you back. Not sure what you're going to see. I need to take a cut. I need to take it down to 821 or 822, and we're spot on, you know, let's call it 10 mil. So I need to take 1.8 millimeters out of it. Let's see how we go. Now 175 was really easy to measure on my dial. So let's see where we're at. Yeah, 8.145. That's going to do. So now all I need to do is move over and take the same cut again, and we should be right, in theory. I've got a hair's breadth too deep on the second cut, and so I just moved the slide across, and I've just left this tiny little, and you'll never see it, ring of brass or bronze or whatever I'm machining. But you know, I'm going to call that good and be really grateful that that worked out pretty much as I expected. So that's where the threaded piece goes, and that's the recess that I've cut, and there's that little brass piece. And now I can think about parting it off. I'm going to triple check all my measurements while it's still in the lathe and while I can make adjustments really easily. All right, I think I'm ready to part this off. If it doesn't work, you never see the video, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to take the sharp edge off that piece of brass before I part it off completely. There we go. I'm left with a little nipple on the top. I'm going to spin it around, put it back in the lathe, and see if I can machine that really flat and polish the end. Now, keep in mind, that little piece I just polished is the only piece that you'll see from the outside. All the rest of it goes inside. Now, I don't actually think this is going to fit. I think this will be just, might need polish to fit. And I'm right. I was thinking about it as I did it. 10 mil's not going to do it, or 9.99. It'll need to be smaller. Ooh, that might be bigger on one side than the other. Oh, that is super close. That is super close. I'm going to try polishing it to fit. I'm not going to bore you. I'm just going to use emery paper and run it backwards and forwards over that, because we're talking about hundredths to get that to fit. Hundredths. Right, you can see my head again. Now, you're probably not going to believe this, but in one go with some, it's 180 emery tape, you know, I polished out 5/100ths. and I've got the snuggest of snug fits, and I'm actually really chuffed with it. I couldn't ask for a lot more. So it fits like that, except to help if you could see it. Fits, goes up, and now I've got to cut a thread and drill a hole and hope that I drilled this hole deep enough. Now, I don't know whether I've goofed a bit or not. I have not got a great setup in the vise for cutting this thread, and I really probably should have taken the material out of the lathe to have a bigger piece on the end of it to get a grip of it to cut the thread. Now, even if I put it back in the lathe, I haven't got a lot of material to cut the thread with. So, goofed a bit. Going to try and cut this carefully. Probably not going to run down the center. I'm just going to grab some WD-40 and I'll be back with you. I'm back. Grab the WD-40, grab the original part. Now, the original part has about just over 1/2 inch of thread, which is cool. In theory, at 26 threads per inch, it's 1/2 inch is 13 turns because it's got 26 turns to the inch. Well, that's how I work it out anyway. I'm not really sure. Lube, pardon the expression, lube is our friend, and let's see if we can get this cut. I'll bring you in on a better angle. I'm looking down it, I can see little curls coming off the die, so I know it started to cut. Now, I haven't got a great purchase of it in the vise, but I'm going to call that 1/2 turn. 1 turn. 2. That's another 6 turns. So I should only be 1 turn short of the 1/2 inch. I'll pull it all out. Going to pull it out of the vise. Have a look at it. Yeah, might be a turn, maybe turn and a half short of being correct, but I'm real close. Yeah, looks all right. Let's take another turn and trust our first judgment that at 26 threads per inch, 13 turns of the die is 1/2 inch. Oh no, somebody tell me if I'm wrong. There it is. Just going to go another 1/2 turn. Give it a wash off. And all in all, that doesn't look too bad. That thread's actually cut better than the first one I made. All that's left now is to drill a hole. I need to try and get the hole in the middle. This is another job that I could have done when I had the bigger piece and set it up in the mill and drilled a hole at the beginning, but I didn't. So now I need to decide how to neatly drill a hole right through the middle of that. Actually, it isn't in the middle. It's just to 1 inch. And when you look at the fitting, the hole in the fitting is not in the middle of the fitting. It's to one end. I'm assuming that's so that it goes directly in. Don't really know. Slightly weird. It's definitely not in the middle of the fitting. Weird. I'm going to drill a hole, bring you back. It's starting to get dark outside. I'm going to call it a night. I've only got one thing left to do, and that's get a slot in the end of this piece to screw it in, nip it up into the crankcase, or mill 2 flats on it so I can get a spanner onto it. I need to contemplate my inner self before I tackle that, because I don't think I'd be real good at that. But anyway, I'm really pleased with it. I'm thinking it's a slot cut directly across it. I just don't know how. I don't have a really small end mill. I think the smallest I have is 1/4 inch, and it's like a 1 mil slot we're looking to put across this. So I think it's come up really well. I'm going to bring it in, put this on the bench, and let you have a close look at it. Maybe. Right. Here's the 3 versions that we've got. Here's what I think is an original. I hope it is, because I've copied it. And, you know, it's fine. Here's the second one, the one I made, and I actually believe it will function perfectly well. I don't really have any qualms about it, and that worked. And those 2 measurements, sorry, that measurement is the same. Here's the third one. This is the winner, I think. So let's just put him aside for a second. Not because he's a bad guy, just because he's too clumsy. So what I was trying to achieve, sorry, just pick it back up again, is to get rid of that. And that's what we've got rid of. I've got rid of about 35 millimetres. I think this fitting, I'm going to give it a polish up and a buff up, and I think it'll be really good. It works really well. Now I can put it aside. So here's what I think is an original, or a copy of an original or something. Now there's a few little burrs left on this, and I'm not sure why. And weirdly, when I look at it, it doesn't sit straight. Don't know why that is either. Here's the piece. Sorry. That's where it sits on the crankcase, and the threads line up, and everything kind of lines up. The hole moves from there to here, because this is the oil feed. That was the old oil feed that's blocked off. So we've moved the oil feed, cut new threads, and I really think it's going to be fine. I'm going to give it a polish up, but for now, I'm done for the day. Hanging out in the shed this morning. Sorry about the poor quality lighting and stuff. It's dark and it's winter. I've been working on this second oil feed for the engine, and you saw some footage of me machining it and fitting it up and new clamps. So I've got a couple of O-rings this morning, and I've cut a slit in the back for a screwdriver. It's just a pity I didn't get it right in the middle, but nonetheless, it is what it is. I'm going to fit this up to the bike, and hopefully it all seals up. And then I've just silver soldered new ends onto the oil feed pipe. I'm going to put it all back together. Come and have a look. There we go. There's the oil fitting on the bike. And you can see the bike as of today. There's lots of bits missing as I fiddle with the gearbox and fiddle with the rear wheel and try to get a lot of jobs done at once. It's actually been about 3 weeks since I fitted this, maybe more. And I was putting the footage together and the footage is corrupt. So I'm just reshooting for you. What you can see is the oil fitting. Now, even now, there's an adapter in the middle. I just need to sort out the threads and make the adapter smaller, and I may be able to narrow it down again. I slotted this. There's an O-ring behind here that goes to the case, and it seals it up really good. I shortened up the pipe. I do need to just check the silver solder fitting, because I think it just cracked as I put it together. Now there's the first fitting, and it hung out about that far. You can see that we have a much narrower fitting. It's actually really hard to hold up. But if I turn it round the other way and put it to the case, and you pretend, you can see that we're 30 mil. It's quite a lot. And it hugs into the primary chain case much better. Still a little clumsy for my liking in this area just here. and I am going to work at that to see what I can do. What does Jeff from Home Built say? If it's worth doing twice. It's come up well. I'm pleased with it. There you go. That's an oil feed fitting, and that's a long format video. If you like the long format, yell out at me, will you? And I'll do that. It takes a long time and it takes a lot of effort, but I'm happy to do that if that's what people want. I would love to see the channel grow. The oil feed fitting is a good result. I'm not upset I made the first one or spent money on the first one. It's only through the learning of the first one that I was capable of making the second one. And of course, it was only with Simon Dillon's help from the UK that I was capable of making any of it anyway. So shout out again to you, Simon. You're a good guy. I like how it looks. It's worth doing. I still think it's going to function perfectly well. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you don't like the long format. Cheers. Have a good one.